Well, thank you again for tuning in to No Sweat English. My name is Carol Wright. I'm your teacher for the day, and today we're going to talk all about conditionals, which can be very confusing for students, so let's get started. First, you need to know what is a conditional. A conditional is a statement, and there are usually two clauses, the if clause and the result clause. The if clause tells you the condition. So if something were to happen, then a result is given. Okay, so in other words, if something is true, then a result is given. So let's look at an example. If I say, if I'm tired, I go to bed early. So the condition is if I will have to be tired before I can go to bed early or before I choose to go to bed early. So if I'm not tired, I go to bed late. So those are the conditions. So the condition is usually the if clause that gives the condition, and the later clause or the clause afterwards will give you the result. There are four types of conditionals. First type is the true or real in the present or future, which is the most commonly used by especially students who just picked up English. We have the untrue or unreal in the present or future. And we also have the untrue and unreal in the past, as well as mixed time we're going to talk about today. So the true and real in the present or future, what is the meaning? The meaning is that this condition is real and true or can be real and true. So the form that we use is if plus the simple present tense, and the result is present or future tense. Now let's talk about the difference between the present and the future result. If we were to use the present, so here is an example. If people get hungry, they eat. If he exercises, he loses weight. You should see in the result aspect of that is it is in present tense, and the result clause of the second sentence is also in the present tense. This is what we're saying: if people get hungry, they eat. This is what they do. If he exercises, he loses weight. That just makes sense. So what is the difference between the present and future tense? The present tense talks about a habit or a fact. So you could say it is usually a habit or a fact that if people get hungry, they naturally eat. Or if someone exercises, he naturally loses weight. That is just a fact. On the other hand, with future tense, I could say if I get hungry later, I will eat. That's the future tense. If I exercise more, I will lose weight. That's also one-time future. This is telling the listener that if I get hungry later, this is a one-time future. I will eat. This is what I will do today. If I exercise more, I will lose weight. I'm talking about my specific situation and the one-time future. So again, the difference between present and future is in the present, we are talking about habit and fact. If people get hungry, they eat. But a one-time future is I'm talking about myself. If I get hungry later, I will eat. This is the thing that I will do. Here's another example that's not written here. If I say, if I get bored, I watch TV. That will be a habit that I do. But if I say, if I get bored, I will watch TV, I'm focusing on the one-time future right now and the future what I will do if I get bored. Okay, so this is a very common conditionals that people use. Now moving on to untrue and unreal in the present or future. Every time you hear the word untrue and unreal, I want you to think about a dream world or a fantasy, because the meaning of this, just like the title suggests, it cannot be true. This condition is not true or not real now, or it can never be true or real. So the form that we use is we use with if plus the past tense in the if clause, and the result clause we can use would or could with the base form. Okay, that's not written here, but again, in the if conditionals, we'll say if plus the past tense and would or could plus the base form of the verb. So let's look at an example. If I were a bird, I would fly away. You will see that I'm using the be verb past tense in the conditional clause. If I were a bird, I would fly away. The truth is I'm not a bird and can never be a bird. So I indicate that by using the past tense in the if conditional. If I were a bird, I would fly away. Now, if you look at the right side, I just want to show you that this is called the subjunctive. The be verbs becomes were for all the subject. I know you learned before when you use simple past tense for He, she, it, we use was, but actually in this type of grammar, we use were for all the subject. I were, you were, he were, she were, it were, they were, we were. I know it sounds a little weird in the beginning, but you'll get used to it. We can, in informal speaking, we can say if I was or if he, she, it was, but the best answer is to use were with all the subject. So let's go back to our examples. If I were a bird, I use the past tense to indicate that this is not true because I can never be a bird. So I would not say if I am a bird because that would mean real and possible, but it is not in this case. In this case is if I were a bird, I would fly away. Truth is, again, I'm not a bird and can never be a bird, so I can never really fly away. Another example using a different verb is the half verb. If Jackie had $1 million, he would travel the world. So now the past tense had tells me that this condition is unreal. So let's look at the truth. The truth is the opposite. Jack doesn't have $1 million, so he can't travel the world, at least not now. Okay, he does not have that $1 million. Now, it's interesting that you look at the past tense in the if clause, and you might say this is a past tense sentence. So please do not be confused. This is not a past tense sentence. It is an unreal in the present or future. Now, you try writing an unreal conditional sentence, and if you have someone to share with a partner. So let's talk about the difference between would and could. So would expresses desire, you want to do something. Could expresses ability, you can do it. So let's look at the examples in this example sentence. If I had $1 million, I could give it to you. Or if I had $1 million, I would give it to you. What's the difference between the two? Now, could means if I had $1 million, which I know the past tense had tells me that I don't have that, but if dreaming, again, fantasy, if I had $1 million, I could give it to you, meaning I would have the ability to give it to you, but I maybe don't want to because maybe I don't know you. However, the second sentence, if I had $1 million, I would give it to you, would mean that I want to give it to you. So maybe this you, maybe my mom or my husband or someone that I love, I would give it to you. So could means ability, would means desire. Now let's talk about the untrue and unreal in the past. Now you might think to yourself, if you really think about this sentence, how can something that already happened in the past be unreal or untrue? Well, the meaning is you're dreaming. You're dreaming that something already happened, but you wish it were different. Okay, something already happened and you regret it and you want it to be something different or the opposite. So you have a dream or fantasize about the past. Something already happened, you cannot change it, but you wish you could, so you dream about it. That's when we use the untrue or unreal in the past, usually to talk about regrets. So the form is we use if plus the past perfect tense in the if clause, and would or could plus the present perfect in the result clause. So let's look at a truth sentence, not a dream now, a true sentence. I didn't study, so I failed the test. Now there's no if clause, which tells me this is a true sentence. I didn't study, so I failed the test. You should also see there's past tense use in both clauses that tells me this happened already. Now, I really want to dream because I really don't want to fail the test. So my dream would be the opposite of the truth, right? Because I regret the truth. So my dream says if I had studied, I wouldn't have failed the test. Okay? So what you should notice is if the opposite, meaning using not or using no, not using a not, tells me the opposite. Okay, so on the right-hand side, you should say, because your dream is the opposite of what really happened, so if in the reality, in the true sentence, it has a not, you cancel that in your dream sentence. And if reality doesn't have a not, you add to it, because you're always wanting the opposite to happen. So hopefully you understand what I mean by that. So you should see in the true sentence, I didn't study. And in the dream clause, if I had studied, that's the opposite, right? You cancel the not. And so I failed the test. There's no not. You're going to add a not to the dream result. I wouldn't have failed the test. Now, another sentence here as an example. Jackie drove too fast, so he got a ticket. Now, of course, that's unfortunate and you don't want that to happen, so Jackie now is dreaming. If Jackie hadn't driven too fast, comma, he wouldn't have gotten a ticket. Again, you should see the drove is a past tense. That tells me that this is something that already happened and he's regretting it. So we're going to use past perfect and add a not because the original sentence didn't have a not. And then the result clause also adding a not because the original didn't have a not. Okay, so the dream is always going to be the opposite. Now, I'd like you to try it. So Jennifer woke up late, so she was late to class. Second example, Amy didn't go to class, so she didn't understand the homework. So you might want to pause here and think about the answer. Now, let me give you the answer in speaking. See if you can write it down and check yourself. So again, the true sentence, Jennifer woke up late, so she was late to class. I know this already happened because it uses past tense, so I know I need to use past perfect in my if clause. So the answer for number 1 is if Jennifer had woken up early, or I can say if Jennifer hadn't woken up late, she wouldn't have been late to class. Okay, let me repeat that. If Jennifer hadn't woken up late, she wouldn't have been late to class. Or you can say if Jennifer had woken up early, right, which is the opposite, she wouldn't have been late to class. Second sentence, Amy didn't go to class, so she didn't understand the homework. Now, I would like that to be different, or so everything changes to the opposite and uses the past perfect tense in the if clause. If Amy had gone to class, comma, she would have understood the homework. Again, if Amy had gone to class, comma, she would have understood the homework. Now, I have given you a very helpful chart here. If you really want to understand conditionals, you really need to memorize it as soon as possible, what the if clause is and the result clause. So here as a review, with the real and present future, we use if plus the simple present tense, and the present tense with the will in the result clause. Okay? If it's in the future, you can use the will future tense. With the unreal present and future, we'll use if plus the simple past tense in the if clause, and would and could in the result clause. And in the unreal past, we will use if plus the past perfect tense, and the result clause we will use would or could plus the present perfect. Now, why do you need to memorize this? Because this So with mixed time conditionals, think of it this way. You're mixing the past with the present and past and the future. Because why? Life doesn't happen in just one time period, does it? Right? What you did last night can affect you now, wouldn't you say? And what you do now can affect the future. Okay, let's look at as an example how the past can affect the present. Here, first sentence, I went to bed late last night, so I'm tired now. So you can see there's a mixed tense here. I went to bed last night late. That's past tense. Now it's affecting me. So I'm tired this morning. I'm tired now. That's the past affecting the present. Or you can have the present affecting the past. I'm lazy in general. That's my personality. I'm lazy. So I didn't study yesterday. So you can see your overall general personality of laziness has affected you in the past, which caused you not to study. Life is continuous and past can affect present and future. Therefore, it can also happen in conditionals too. Please remember, mixed time can only be used with unreal conditionals, never with real. Because remember, unreal is your dream world. Your real world is your real world. You never mix your dream and your real. Because if you mix up your dream world and your real world, we call that crazy person. Okay? So you're not a crazy person. So make sure that when you're using unreal, you only mix unreal, past and future together. You don't mix the unreal with the real. Never. Okay? So here, let me put the chart here. So let's look at mixed time conditionals. So I have a past and present clause mixed into the same sentence. How would we do this? Okay, I didn't study, so I don't know how to do this. Now that's my past affecting my present. So you need to first identify which one is the if clause. The first one, right? I didn't study. Now look at your if clause in the chart. Which one should you use? You're supposed to use the unreal past because it's past tense. So you know in the if clause, you're going to use if plus past perfect tense. And now you look at your result clause. I don't know how to do this. Now look at your result clause. Which one should you use? Present or past? It's the present. So we're going to use the present result clause. Okay, so we're mixing it using the if clause from the past and the result clause from the present and future. So the answer here is, if I had studied, I would know how to do this. Let me say that again. If I had studied, I would know how to do this. Okay, past perfect. And then the would plus and or could plus the base form. Let's look at as another example. Jennifer is nice, so her boss gave her a raise. Now that's the present, her overall personality affecting her past. Okay, so Jennifer is nice, so her boss gave her a raise. So in the present, we know that the if is with the present tense, so we're going to use if plus simple past tense. Her boss gave her a raise is the result of a past, so we're going to use the unreal past. So we're going to say the answer is, if Jennifer hadn't, I'm sorry, let me start that again. If Jennifer weren't nice, her boss wouldn't have given her a raise. So again, because Jennifer is nice is the present tense, and that's the if clause, we're going to use the present if clause, if plus simple past tense. And the past tense so clause here, her boss gave her a raise, we're going to use the result clause for past. So again, the answer is, if Jennifer were nice, if Jennifer were not nice, her boss wouldn't have given her a raise. Let me say that again correctly. If Jennifer were not nice, her boss wouldn't have given her a raise. All right? All right, so let's have you try these two sentences. So you might want to pause as I'm going to give you the answer. So Tom didn't eat breakfast, so he's hungry now. The answer is, if Tom had eaten breakfast, he wouldn't be hungry now. Let me say that again. If Tom had eaten breakfast, he wouldn't be hungry now. Second sentence, David loves sports, so he played soccer for 4 hours last night. The answer is, if David didn't love sports, he wouldn't have played soccer for 4 hours last night. Let me repeat that. If David didn't love sports, he wouldn't have played soccer for 4 hours last night. Right? If you understand this correctly, then you understand conditionals very, very well. If not, I suggest you go back and actually study the slides again. Now, another way we can actually talk about conditionals is not always using if. So omitting if means to cancel the if, because imagine a native speaker always have to say if blah 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 blah, if blah 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 blah. It can sometimes be a little bit wordy. So you can cancel the if in a conditional if you're using the be verb, the had, or the should verb. Okay, so here's an example. If I were him, I would do it differently. Okay, this is the present unreal. Now, the way to omit is on the right-hand side, you should see the rule. We cancel the if and change the subject and verb position. So the sentence becomes, were I him, I would do it differently. Okay, so I took out the if, switched places with I and were. I know it sounds a little weird, but it's in the question form, but that's how we make it. If he had eaten dinner, he wouldn't have been hungry. Okay, so we want to cancel if, we cancel the if and change place with he and had. So we would say, had he eaten dinner, he wouldn't have been hungry. Number 3, if anyone should need me, call me. So again, I cancel the if, change places with should and anyone. So we say, should anyone need me, call me. All right. Now the should here means if anyone should need me. What does that mean? It means the possibility is low that someone is going to need me, but there's still a small chance. So we add the should here, okay? If anyone should need me. I don't think so, but if they do, call me. Okay, so just a little side note. But again, to cancel the if, we cancel the if, we put the should in front and the anyone later. So that's the only thing about this, is pretty easy. Now, implied conditionals, again, is another way to talk about conditionals without using if. So I'm giving you a lot of information today. So what does it mean when something is implied? So when something's implied, it means that something is not stated directly or openly. The if clause is implied and not stated in these cases. So we, again, don't always have to say if, but it's implied. The meaning is there without using the if. So here's an example. I would have helped you, but you didn't tell me about it. Now, the if clause is embedded in the but clause here. Okay, I would have helped you if you had told me about it. But the truth is you didn't tell me about it, so I couldn't have helped you. Okay, so here we say, I would have helped you. We're changing the but clause here into an if clause, if you had told me. Because the truth is you didn't tell me about it. Now we say if you had told me about it. Now, because in the original clause it is past tense, we're going to use past perfect here, had told me, and the opposite. Okay. We can also use the word otherwise in a sentence. If you look at the right side, otherwise means if not for the clause before. Okay, the otherwise apply to the before clause as the if clause. So here we have the sentence, you should hurry. Otherwise, you'll be late. In other words, I'm saying if you don't hurry. Okay, the otherwise gives you the if and the not, and you put it in the sentence before. If you don't hurry, you will be late. Okay, so that's another example of implied conditionals. Here, please take a minute to do these practices, and I'm going to give you the answer in just a second. Okay, so you might want to pause to do it and then check yourself. Number 1, he practiced, otherwise he would not have won. So what is the conditional here? The conditional here is if he hadn't practiced, comma, he would not have won. If he had not practiced, comma, he would not have won. Second sentence, I would have gone to the party, but I was busy. In other words, the answer is, I would have gone to the party if I hadn't been busy. I would have gone to the party if I hadn't been busy. Now, please notice if the if clause comes after, there is no comma. Okay, if the if clause comes first, there's a comma. I forgot to mention that to you. Number 3, I would have never understood this without your help. Okay, we didn't talk about this one, but I'm hoping that you be able to figure it out. If not, here's the answer. So without your help means if you didn't help me. Right? That's the same thing. So I would have never understood this if you hadn't helped me. Okay? Again, the answer is I would have never understood this if you hadn't helped me. All right. So there it is, today's lesson of conditionals. Hopefully I was clear in my PowerPoint. If you have any questions, please leave me a comment on my video, and also to make sure to download the handout in the description from my Blogspot so that you can do some exercise and check yourself. Please, if you have any question, please comment so that I can get back to you and make my lesson clear. Okay, until next time, thank you for tuning in, and please hit subscribe if you have not, and the bell as well. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.